Hello, and welcome to the Arnie Diaz Show. Today's show, a book review and discussion of Anthony Bourdain's Kitchen Confidential, Adventures in the Culinary Underbelly.
You know, while I admit I wouldn't particularly enjoy going back to cooking short order, I know I can if I have to. I'm pretty sure I could keep up on an omelet station.
That was from one of the last interviews that Anthony Bourdain ever gave. And this is an excerpt from the book that I believe perfectly illustrates what this whole book is all about.
For culinary students, line cooks looking to move up in the world, newcomers to the business, and the otherwise unemployable who make up so much of our workforce, I have a few nuggets of advice. The boiled down wisdom of 25 years of doing right and doing wrong in the restaurant industry. For the growing number of people who are considering becoming a professional chef as a second career, I have some advice too. In fact, let's dispose of you first. So you want to be a chef. You really, really, really want to be a chef. If you've been working in another line of business and have been accustomed to working 8 to 9 hours a day, weekends and evenings off, holidays with the family, regular sex with your significant other, if you are used to being treated with some modicum of dignity, spoken to and interacted with as a human being, seen as an equal, a sensitive, multidimensional entity with hopes, dreams, aspirations, and opinions, the sort of qualities you'd expect of most working persons, then maybe you should reconsider what you'll be facing when you graduate from whatever 6-month course put this nonsense in your head.
That excerpt, I believe, perfectly illustrates what Kitchen Confidential, Adventures in the Culinary Underbelly truly is all about. This book is, first of all, a very easy read. It's not too long, and you learn a lot about food and the people who make it. And that, I believe, is what is the best part of Kitchen Confidential. Anthony Bourdain, world-renowned traveler and orator, details his beginnings. This is a memoir of his early life and career. It takes place from the time he was a child to the time right before he wrote the book. And there's an afterword detailing his life after the book was released as well. This is his freshman effort, meaning, yes, it's his first book about cooking and being a chef, but it wasn't his first book. Before writing this book, he actually wrote 2 other mystery novels that just didn't go anywhere. And one day, he was given the opportunity to write an article for a local school paper. They took a while to publish it, so his mother, who happened to be a former writer for The New Yorker, suggested that he submit the article there so that they can publish it, and they did. And because of that, he got the book deal for this book, subsequently starting his whole career in the public eye as a person on TV who travels and tells people stories. And this book very much feels like a freshman effort when it comes to his explanations of the world and cooking, because his voice is there. His voice that we hear on the television show is definitely throughout the book, but it's not as polished and as consistent as it is in his TV shows. Now, admittedly, I have watched pretty much every single one of the episodes of all the television shows that he's done, so I am a fan, for sure, 100%. But I'm also a person who has worked in the restaurant industry for many, many years. Almost 10, honestly. And I am a photographer, so I am still technically in the service industry as well. So, I must admit, I do have a bias and a propensity to like this book. Within it, he details the grittiness, the raw, the realness of the interpersonal relationships that happen within a restaurant. Granted, I was never a chef, so the level of interactions that he has that go beyond the restaurant with suppliers and managers and people who run other restaurants, definitely not the conversations I was having with people. But overall, the experience I had is very much the same as the world he describes in the book. Now, admittedly, Well, Bourdain does state that he wrote this book about his upbringing within the New York restaurant scene in the 80s and early 90s. So many of the observations made about the industry are a bit outdated within the book, given now that we have much better technology to store food, and we are also able to get food much faster from the source, even with current supply chain problems. We can still get food pretty quickly through the world. So there are a few observations in this book about the restaurant industry that are kind of outdated, such as only eating fish earlier in the week and not later in the week. When you read this book, keep that in mind when you're reading about it. Also, it is kind of an exaggerated tale. Much of the book is filled with this kind of gonzo-like journalism style, which definitely tracks for Anthony Bourdain and his very counterculture vibrato. But that also helps to make this book a lot funner and a very quick read. You'll blow right through this book. And within it, he does talk about cooking, and you will get a bit of a lesson on cooking as well. He details the cookware that you should have at the bare minimum, and he also talks about the greatness of butter. And I'll be honest, when you read this book, you will be eating a lot more butter and putting a lot more butter on your food. It makes everything better. He also talks about his problem with addiction and working through that and figuring out how to stop being in that. I should also state, before I continue, Anthony Bourdain did die of suicide in a France hotel. He had a long storied battle with addiction and depression. So before I continue, here is the suicide hotline. If you ever need to talk to someone, someone is there to speak to you. So please use the number if you ever need it. Bourdain details his life in pretty gritty detail throughout the pages of this book. It's a memoir, a coming-of-age story, a story about addiction and fighting through addiction and overcoming. It's also a story about the people who make our food. There are many lessons within the book that I learned firsthand while working in the restaurant industry. Chief of which, the restaurant industry is very welcoming. It is a place where you can have a second, third, and fourth chance. It is also a place where many immigrants begin their lives in this country, and is truly one of the only industries in America where you can start from basically absolutely nothing and work your way all the way up to the top. It is also a very hard industry to work in. It's difficult day in, day out. It is often thankless and very hard on your body. Kitchen Confidential is, I believe, both a story about Anthony Bourdain's life and a love letter to the restaurant industry, because it gave him purpose and strength to move forward in his life. Kitchen Confidential: Adventures in a Culinary Underbelly is a fantastic book, and I give it a 5 out of 5. Thank you so much for watching. I am Arnie Diaz89 on all social platforms. I'm going to be doing another book review on a John Grisham novel called Playing for Pizza. It's about a backup quarterback that loses out in the NFL and moves to Italy to be part of a minor league American football team. Also, I will have reviews of Uncharted and Batman coming soon. Thank you so much for watching and or listening.